The Soul Redeemer, Book 2, Chapter 15, Questions. This time, as Nicole entered the barn, she called out, "Detective?" He stepped into the horse stall and shut the door behind him. "All clean, I see," he said as he came toward her. She supposed it was his attempt at polite conversation. She was in no mood for polite. "Thanks for the clothes, Detective. It's amazing that they fit so well. It's like you'd planned my visit, thinking about what I'd need for my stay. So thoughtful of you." He must have noticed her sarcasm because he turned and looked at Nicole intently before answering. "In a way, I did plan some things. I need a cup of coffee, and then I'll answer your questions." They stepped out of the barn, and Nicole looked around. "So where are your two bodyguards, Detective? I can't imagine you'd go anywhere without them." He rolled his eyes as if to ask why he had brought this contrary female to his home. He zipped up his jacket and said, "I'm not talking until I have my coffee." It was still cool this early in the morning, and Nicole decided that coffee did sound good. In the kitchen, Sam poured a cup and left her to get her own. He had just taken his first sip when Nicole asked, "How could you think that Maria is against us?" He nearly choked and grabbed a napkin from its holder and coughed into it. "What?" he asked when he finally was able to take a breath. "I heard you talking to somebody on the phone. Something about Maria being a spy. I'm not sure that I should have trusted you, Detective Miller, if that's even your real name. Who are you, really? Why don't we start with that?" Sam sat down with a sigh. He reluctantly admitted, "No, I'm not Detective Miller." "Samuel Adams, at your service, my lady." With that, he gave a mock bow of his head. "I was going to tell you my real name, but I just hadn't gotten to it yet." Nicole still stood next to the coffee pot on the counter. She sneered, "You're kidding, right? Samuel Adams is in the founding father of the United States? Yeah, like that's the truth." With amazing patience, Sam responded, "I choose to believe that the recent disturbing turn of events in your life is the cause of your present rudeness, and that you're not always such a pea-brain. And if you'll listen for just a minute, I'll explain." He didn't wait for her response. "For your information, I do happen to be a direct descendant of the aforenamed Samuel Adams, but that's irrelevant in this case. I used to be a detective in the Washington, D.C. Police Department. I was part of a special ops unit investigating fraudulent and illegal activity on a corporate level. We became aware that our investigations were being sabotaged, and further research led us to believe that the interference was coming from the top level of government. There were 3 of us on the task force. One died of a heart attack, and the other died in a car accident within a month's time. Our unit was ordered to shut down due to lack of funds. At least that's what I was told. They would have placed me on a crime prevention unit, speaking in school assemblies and whatnot, but I couldn't let go of the stuff I had uncovered. I was trying to decide what to do when I was approached by a certain individual, also with connections in the upper levels of government. He asked me to consider retirement, but to use that as a cover to continue the research. This person explained that there were others who were supportive of this operation and were willing to fund the research and expenses if I would agree to continue. So I took them up on their offer. I retired and moved here to continue my work from a distance under the guise of being an old retired grandpa. We are intent on bringing down the strongholds of the enemy." Nicole was surprised at his wording, bringing down strongholds of the enemy, and she was reminded that spiritual truths often parallel physical truth and vice versa. "Okay, Sam Adams, do you think that anyone suspects you of anything?" Nicole asked. Ignoring her rudeness, he answered, "As far as I know, it was a clean break and I function out from under the radar. My daughter has a special needs boy that requires quite a bit of care, and I think they believed me when I told them that they needed me and that I was done taking care of other people's problems and ignoring my own." "That's admirable of you. But where is your daughter? That is, if you really have one," she said. He answered harshly, "Look, lady, you asked a question relevant to your case, and I answered you because I want you to trust me. But my personal life does not involve you, and it is not open to your judgments." After a moment of silence, he added, What I said about my daughter and grandson is true, but that's all you need to know." The ice in Nicole's heart toward this man was beginning to melt, and she could see that he was frustrated with all her questions and accusations. "Thank you, Detective. I do want to trust you, but I have so many questions. Like, for starters, why would you tell me your name is Bob Miller if it's really Sam Adams?" He said, "I use a pseudonym when I'm in public on business such as this. I'm undercover, remember? I try to cover my tracks." "Well, that makes sense," she said. "But if I'm going to trust you, there are some things I have to know. Like, how is it that you seem to know things about my life and even have the right size of clothes here ready for me, like you knew I was coming? And you were in Samaria looking for me. That just makes me feel creepy." "Yeah, I guess it would," Sam answered. "Okay, I've been on this case for quite a while. I knew you were a target of the people I'm tracking, and because they're under my surveillance, I've been aware of certain things about you as well. I was hoping to be able to stop the strike, but in the last month or so, things have sped up so fast within their operation, I knew the chances of that happening were slim. The next best thing would have been to kidnap you myself before they did, and that's why I was in Samaria when you disappeared. I was going to try to get to you first and keep you away from them. As it is, I was at least able to collect your things. I had a feeling you might need a safe place to go, and this is the safest place I know. As for the clothes, my daughter is close to your size, and she keeps some of her things here. I actually hadn't thought of the clothes. You're staying in her room, and Maria's the one who found them in the closet and asked if you could use them." Nicole was feeling a little better, but she wasn't sure how she felt about being kidnapped, even by someone with good intentions. She turned her attention back to Maria. "Speaking of Maria, what about her? I know you don't want her to stay, so are you going to explain that to me? Because I don't care who you're working with as long as you help me get home. And I know you somehow believe that I am a link that your organization thinks you need. But I'm telling you right now that if Maria goes, so do I. She is not a spy." "Okay, lady, calm down," he said. "I get that it's hard for you to trust me, and that you have a lot of unanswered questions. Over time, I believe you will find the answers you want. But as for Maria, what makes you think she's not a plant, and that she is trustworthy? She's an unplanned, unexpected, possible liability, and there's a lot at stake here for a lot of people, not just you. I have to protect this mission." Nicole did understand protecting important things. She didn't have anything to prove her theory about Maria except the knowing in her spirit, which of course he would not trust. After thinking for a moment, she asked, "Detective, are you a Christian?" "What? What does that have to do with anything? And now that the cat's out of the bag, drop the detective stuff and just call me Sam." "Okay, Sam," she said emphatically. "And it has everything to do with everything, but I guess that answers my question. At any rate, I know you can have your question about Maria answered. We'll just go ask her. Ask her all the questions you and I can think of, and then God will tell us what we need to know about her. You will either know that she is safe and can stay, or I will know that I was wrong about her and she needs to go." "So you believe that we'll hear the voice of God telling us if Maria's safe or not?" he asked. Nicole didn't think this was the time to get into a theological debate, so she said, "If you don't trust God, then trust your instincts. You do have instincts, don't you?" "So quick to judge. I was hoping you'd be different," Sam mumbled. Nicole wasn't sure exactly what he had said, but she was anxious to clear her friend. "Let's just go talk to Maria, and we'll see what happens." Shaking his head and again taking one of those tolerant but accepting deep breaths, he stood up and said, "Okay, we'll go find Maria."